Well, Ireland are now the favourites for the Six Nations. Many of you might have thought that they were the favourites before this weekend. They are definitely the favourites after this weekend. What a weekend it has been for Ireland. What a performance and what a result they put in up at Murrayfield. Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you clicking on the video. Give me your comments. What do you make of that Ireland performance? And Scotland fans, where are you after that? No shame in losing to Ireland, but a pretty disappointing afternoon for your side, to put it mildly. So have your say in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel. But as I say, the Six Nations is now in Ireland's hands, isn't it? And it probably comes down to round 4 against France. They will beat Italy, they will beat Wales. That would be a huge shock if they were to lose to either of those teams. They've got France at home. Can anyone see them not winning it? Not winning another Grand Slam, 3 championships in a row, second Grand Slam in 3 years. It would be a remarkable achievement. I know we've got 3 rounds to go, but that, it looks like, is where we're tracking. Or round 4 against France, could the French still have a say in where the title ends up to stop it heading back to Dublin once again? Let me know. I'll start with Scotland, I'll get on to Ireland. Look, for Scotland, the injuries didn't help. They lost Finn Russell pretty early, Darcy Graham, they had to change things around. They had players coming off the bench a lot earlier. That would have halted their momentum. But even at that point in the game, right from the first whistle pretty much, it was Ireland that were dictating and dominating the match. And as I say, there's no shame for Scotland in losing to Ireland. They're a very good team, we know that. But Scotland fans, is it more the manner in which they lost which is going to really, really frustrate? Throughout that second half, when the camera panned into the coach's box and you looked at Gregor Townsend, he just looked so down. Because they were never really in the game, were they? I know they did get back to within 1 score early on in the second half, but they were never really in it. They were never really in the game. They were never really in a position where you felt like they were causing Ireland serious problems. And for all the development of this team, for how much better they are than Scotland teams of generations gone by and the amazing scalps that they've picked up, it's another Six Nations where we will wait and see, but they might not head into that final weekend with a chance of winning the title. Just how much does that frustrate? Or do you ultimately look at this and say it's because they're not quite good enough? They are a good side. They're a side that have improved massively. They could still well go to Twickenham and beat England. I've got no doubt about that. England, I think, will now be the favourites after winning against France. So is it that they're not good enough to compete for the title, or is it because they had a real off day today? And I must admit, even though Ireland are a better side, I thought Scotland at home would be able to cause them more issues, cause them more problems than we ultimately saw. And so when I say that it's the manner of the performance and the result that's really going to frustrate, I think that's what I mean, that they didn't really seriously fire a shot. I thought their goal line defence, particularly in the beginning of the game, was very, very good. It was keeping them in it in that first half. I give them credit as well for coming back into the game when they were 17-0 down, wasn't it? You were thinking, geez, this is going to be a pretty brutal afternoon. It was still fairly brutal, but they did come back into it, so you give them credit for that. But we know this is a Scotland team that has character. The question was, can they compete against the best sides? Can they beat the best sides to give them a shot at the title? Now, their title hopes aren't over, but they've taken a pretty significant blow. And so just overall, I would imagine that the feeling in Scotland is going to be frustration, that sense that they have seen it before, and in particular that they underperformed. But having said all of that, a major amount of credit has to go to Ireland. That was a seriously good performance. Ireland fans, best performance since the summer tour to South Africa. Some of those test matches we saw against the Springboks, I think it probably was, really. And it was twofold for me. There were loads of good areas of it, don't get me wrong. But I thought in attack, they looked really, really dangerous. They asked so many questions. They kept their continuity. They piled the pressure on from the first whistle, as I say. And then from a defensive point of view, I thought especially at the breakdown. And I just wonder whether Ireland looked at the first half against England last week when England were leading at half-time, were causing them problems. England's work at the breakdown was very, very good, physically and in terms of disrupting and turnovers and things like that. And I thought Ireland were way more on it in that regard this week than they were against England. And I just whether that was one of the main things they learnt from that game, because they were a nuisance at the breakdown all afternoon, weren't they? They went after the Scotland ball. They were pretty clean on their own ball as well. Like, their breakdown work was really, really, really good. So great performance from Ireland. And just as we thought coming into this championship, the questions, have Ireland dropped off slightly? Well, over the first 2 weekends, they look like they're possibly getting even better again. In terms of individual performances, I've got a few players to pick out here from an Irish point of view. We have to talk about Prendergast. He got the man of the match. I don't know if he was the man of the match. I think in a game like this, it should really be going to one of the forwards, but still, overall, a much better performance, and importantly for Sam Prendergast, a much better controlling performance from the first whistle. He struggled a little bit, pardon me, against England the week before, but he had much better control of the game, some of his kicking game. The spiral kicks back, absolutely loved that. He was launching some cannons downfield, which actually, we speak a lot about James Lowe and the advantage of his left boot for Ireland because he gets such length on it. If you've also then got a 10 in Prendergast that can cannon it downfield with spiral kicks and things, that's a pretty useful weapon to have. So overall, I thought he was good. I thought he ran the attack very, very well. Really, really good performance. James Lowe, we have to mention again. I feel like James Lowe has progressed from a player that fits into the Ireland system really well, like a really, really good system player, to an incredibly good all-round winger. Like, I feel like he's got better with ball in hand. Like, we know he's kind of big and strong, but his ability to beat players on the outside with the right-handed fend has been in display the last couple of weeks. He's good under the high ball. He gets around the park and does everything. Like, he continues to get better and better. I think he's had 2 really strong rounds to start this Six Nations. And in a year where we have half an eye on the Lions, his name is right there. Given that wings and back three is a pretty competitive area of that squad, he's right up there at the moment. And the other player I wanted to mention was Jamison Gibson-Park. Not because of what we know he does well, which is dictating the pace from 9 and just being such a good orchestrator, such a great general at scrum half. His cover defence is something that I don't know if I'm only just properly paying attention to it for the first time, but in particular today, I thought Gibson-Park's cover defence was excellent. Like, he was a complete nuisance all over the place. So yeah, multiple good performances, but those are 3 I mentioned on the back of saying it should go to one of the forwards player of the match, and I mentioned 3 backs. It's just the way it goes. That's what stood out to me. But obviously another good performance from the Irish forward pack, the bench, Sheehan, Conan scoring the try when you can bring Baird off the bench. Yeah, they're looking pretty good at the moment, and I think it's going to come down to round 4 in terms of Ireland's championship. If France are able to beat them in Dublin, then it blows the championship wide open at that point. But sitting here right now, the Six Nations is in Ireland's hands, and that was the best performance we've seen from them since last summer when they toured South Africa. From a Scotland point of view, Ireland are a good side, a better side than Scotland. But did they really fire a shot? Did they really land too many blows? I think that is ultimately where there's going to be frustration and real disappointment. I know the injuries didn't help them, but even so. Give me your thoughts on it. What did you make of the game? What do you make of both of these teams? And does anyone envisage a scenario where Ireland don't win the Six Nations this year? It is still possible. France are frankly not going to be as bad as they were against England again. So it is possible that they beat Ireland, but in Dublin, we'll know at that stage that that's almost a Grand Slam game. It's almost Grand Slam deciding at that point, with the greatest respect to the Italians and the Welsh. Sitting here right now, it's pretty difficult to look past Ireland, but let me know in the comments. Like the video as well, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.